Okay, YouTubers, space detectives and pareidolia police. We have another game of interplanetary I Spy going on here, and we're back to Gale Crater. And today we're looking at images from Sol 519, which is this page here. Sol 519, there we are, from the Mars Science Laboratory, or the Curiosity rover as it's known. Unfortunately, the Curiosity is no longer sending us images, which is really quite a shame. There's been a computer glitch, and it's still talking to the people at NASA, but it's not sending any images down. But that may be fixed, hopefully, in the next week or two, but it may not. So we've lost two rovers basically in the last 2.5 months, by the looks of it, which is pretty bad, and it's going to be a while before there's a new one up there. So these old images are all we have at the moment, but I've been going through the older images anyway, because a lot of the earlier ones are actually clearer than the new ones, which is rather strange. Perhaps the lighting conditions were better then, I don't know. There was a recent massive storm on Mars, and it's all very dusty, even more dusty than usual, and the light quality isn't great. But let's crack on with it. I'll put a main link, I'll link to this below, so you can check this page out, because I do encourage you to look at these bottom 10 images, these here, up to here, and up. I wouldn't bother with the top ones here, there's not much in those. But these bottom ones are absolutely rammed full of goodies. And I did do a video about this before, this particular Sol, on this day. And this is part 1, Scary Martian and Statues, Mars Museum Pieces, okay? This is part 1. And there's this thing that Monty Williams found years ago, and loads of other things around it as well. I also found multiple angles of this as well, which is really cool. I'll show you a little bit of that now. If you haven't seen this, I do suggest you watch it, because basically it shows the same anomalies from different angles, and you can work out what we're looking at more clearly. As we've got here, you've got multiple, we've got it from the front, we've got it from 2 side angles here. There's loads of other weird stuff in here as well, other statues and carved objects like this. Really strange. Loads and loads and loads of things, and some of them are really quite blatant, like this one, and some of them are very strange. So do check that out, because what this shows to me is that not only are there actual heads lying around which look mummified, but there's lots and lots of carved statues, and some of them are quite abstract looking. They're not all obvious straight away, like this one. They're quite odd looking, in a modern art kind of way, almost Picasso-esque, I would say, okay? Which is rather strange, but we shouldn't cast too many aspersions on what the Martians were like. I do often wonder how many artists there were in Gale Crater, because there seems to be a lot of carved and, well, the carved statues all over the place. I mean, there may have only been a few, who knows? But some of these things are really quite ugly or weird looking, and some of these things are actually fossilized and mummified, like this and this here. So do check out my recent finds. I'm not getting a lot of views on my videos at the moment, because I think certain words are restricted, and I'll tell you more about that in a minute. So before we go any further, let's have a look at the images. I've got the folder up here with some of those things that I showed you. This is one of the heads from the last video. So if you want to see some of these things, you'll have to go back to the previous video. But the 2 latest memes I've done are this one. Now, do bear with me. The image quality isn't great, okay? But what I've done here is I've got the raw clip here and an enhanced clip, and you can see another head which looks like it's wearing some kind of hat or something. And even in the raw image, without doing anything to this at all, you can see 2 eyes, a nose and a mouth and a hat, and a sort of beard or something. Looks like a beard coming around here. So is that a carving or is it not? That's the question. I think it probably is, but it may be mummified. I couldn't tell you, but there's not quite enough detail in the image to tell either way. as is often the case with these things. There's also this one here, which is also, this is tiny, so there's not a lot of detail here either. And this is right next or near that thing I just showed you, to the right of it. I'll show you on the raw image in a minute. This is a tiny little head of what looks like some kind of monkey or something. A bit squashed by the looks of it, or shrunk slightly by the dry conditions on Mars. As I've said for years now, that I think the actual soil and sand here is helping these things mummify, and the lack of oxygen and moisture would also help them preserve for many, many thousands of years without degrading much at all, I think. So there was that. Looks like a little monkey, and it's not the first monkey I found. If you've been on my channel before, you will know that there are many videos that I've done that show monkey skulls and heads and things like that lying around, and as well as many other species as well. So that was the main things in this image. What I'll do now, I'll show you the clips I got here. There's also this. Now, bear with me on this. This isn't very clear. It looks like it's been ghosted out, this part of the image. It's very vague, but if I go a bit smaller, you might be able to see it. There's a head here with a nose there, and there's 2 feet sticking up here. This is a body lying down in the ground, and may go to confirm what I've long believed, is that this whole area is actually a burial area, and a lot of these mounds we see are actually burial mounds that have eroded, and this is why there's lots of these heads and things lying around, because they were all buried in these ridges. What I did is I did a gigapan of this area. That's it, yeah. And this is made up of those bottom 10 images from the page. And what you can see, in part 1 of the video, I concentrated mainly on the right hand side here and showed this dude here, which Monty Williams found 4 years ago, okay? But I also show it from multiple angles, and there's a load of other interesting things in this kind of area here, including that statue there, which is broken. That would have come around like that, but you can actually see it better in part 1. So what we're concentrating on today is this part of the image over here. Now this is much brighter over here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to darken that a bit, because this end of the image is much brighter and you can't see the shadows or definition as well. Let's go down that, there we are, okay. Now there's that dude that I first showed you with the 2 eyes, one there, nose, mouth, okay. But you can see the eyes, you can even see what look like pupils. And as I've said before, I think with some of these things, the eyes may be put in the head, as in semi-precious stones may be placed in the eyes, where the eyes were, perhaps, like some cultures do in South America and other parts of the world on Earth. That is a possibility. That dude lying on the ground is down here, and it's pretty small. You can see the head there. There's the head. Right, and there's what look like 2 feet there, and that looks like a leg or part of the body, and there's some other weird details here which I can't quite make out. Rather strange. I could be wrong on that, but when you look at the other things in the area, you've really got to think twice about everything you see, because the whole area is littered with such burial items, okay. So there we are. There's the little monkey dude. So we got this guy with the hat on here, just to the right of him. You go to there, and we have the little monkey dude here, okay? And this image hasn't been enhanced much at all. You can see it pretty clearly. It's very small. This is probably only a few inches. There's also this weird thing. You've got an eye there, and a kind of beak-like mouth. This could be some kind of weird creature. Don't know. I just spotted, as I was going back over this image, I looked up here. There's also some other things that may be kind of eroded statues like this here. Not really sure about that. That could be a mouth, that could be a nose, it could be an eye there, and an eye there. Who knows? Some of these things may be very, very heavily eroded, may have been exposed to the weathering for many thousands of years. Some of them don't look like they are, and only may have been exposed recently by the wind and could have been buried for many thousands of years. So we don't know what state some of these things are in, but this also looks like it might be something as well, with an eye there and a nose and a mouth. You can see some teeth there. There's another eye there. I don't know if you can see that. It's a bit vague. I'll do a clip of that and see if I can bring it out. This may also be, may not be, but when you have what look like reptilians and stuff like that as well, you've got to bear in mind that some of these heads, if they are carved heads, may be quite extreme looking and rather strange looking to us. You've got an eye here, you've got an eye here, you've got a nose there with a kind of straight nose part and a small mouth there, okay, and the chin coming round, okay. Now that isn't blatantly obvious when you first look at it, but once you realise that some of these things look like kind of reptilians or weird other weird creatures as well, which we may not even understand, you've got to bear in mind that some of these things will look odd and may not make immediate sense when you look at them, but you've got to look at these things with an open mind and not rule anything out really, because basically we're looking at an alien planet here, and we cannot impose our restrictive imagination on another planet's art. We have to open our minds to this, because there may be many different styles of art here which we don't have, or and a certain kind of cultural background that we don't really understand, and on top of that, facial morphology of certain species that we don't yet understand. So there could be many things here that we're not understanding and missing because we're too narrow-minded. And I often think that, and many people have said this, and quite correctly, many people have commented and said that, oh, why would anything look like it does from Earth? Well, I'm only recognising things that look like things that I've seen before, i.e. heads and stuff like that. But many of these things may represent things we've never seen, so we don't recognise them. So you've got to really sort of open your mind up and really think about it quite a lot. And there may be hundreds and hundreds of things that we're not seeing here because we're too restricted in our imagination and our knowledge of what is possible in art, especially on another planet. There was also this thing up here. If you follow this ridge line up here, there's kind of a little mound here at the back. It goes up, and we've got quite a long way off here. This is probably about 20, 40 metres away, don't know. You got this, which looks like a statue here. Now, bear in mind it's a bit vague. I do appreciate that, but there's a head here. Right, there's the head. There's an eye. There's an eye. There's a nose. There's a mouth. Right. I know it's vague. But what I like about this, it's kind of sitting back. You got the back of it here, coming down, like that. There's the bottom part. And you have an arm here, coming up like that. There's the head. There's the eyes, right? And there's a weird thing sticking out there. Now, I don't quite understand what's going on here because I think this is heavily damaged. But you can, if I get rid of those, like these lines are a bit thick. I do apologise for that; they're a bit too thick. But this looks like an actual statue that's broken, and this is an arm. Okay, it goes up. This is the shoulder here. All right. I know this looks odd, and the proportions are weird, but why wouldn't they be? You know, I'll show you the enhanced clip of that in a minute because it's a bit hard. When I spotted it, I thought, I don't know. And then the more I look at it, the more I think, yeah, actually, it is. Or it could be. This may be another skull here. 2 eyes, nasal cavity there. Some of these things have got weird crowns and ridges on top of their skulls. So, you know, you've got to almost throw out some of your preconceptions about what skulls look like. There's a little one here by the looks of it. This there. This place is absolutely littered with things like this. Some of them look fossilized, some of them look mummified, but a lot of these look carved. But these were the best ones. I mean, this one was pretty cool. Let's have a look at them in the clips I've got here, because it's a bit hard to get your head around it when you're looking at a vague image like that. The clips are actually better, even though the image quality isn't great and these things are very small. There's enough detail there to determine what we're looking at is something interesting. And this one even has an ear in exactly the right place, 2 eyes and quite a long narrow nose and a little mouth, a small chin. I found a lot of the Martians have got very small chins and quite sort of baby looking faces. I mean, this may be an ape or something. There's that buried dude again. Let's have a look at the buried dude in here. If it is a buried dude. Just there, okay? Head, nose, you can see an eye there, you can see a mouth. Part of the body here by the looks of it, like a leg or something or whatever. And then 2 feet together. These may have been bound together before he was buried. Assuming it's a he, of course. Yeah, who knows? So there we go. I mean, I could go on for hours and hours about this image, and the more I look at it, the more I find there's loads of weird little things, but some of them are very vague, and some of them aren't so vague, and you've really got to think twice about everything you look at. And if it looks like a head, it may just be a head and not a rock, like everyone seems to insist, or not everyone, but some people seem to insist that all these are just rocks. Well, fossils are rocks of sorts, and they are basically mineralized rock where a skull may have been, or where it was sat in the mud, and then the minerals formed around it and then gradually replaced it, and then it was compressed down into the mud and then solidified, you know. So these things are all over the place, and there's a load of stuff up here, but they're too far away up on this ridgeline up here. A lot of these things are just out of range, so there's probably a whole load more up here, and we're not able to see them in any detail because they're too far away, which is a shame. So I'll put some clips of these coming up in a minute. Let's just have a look at the raw image of that, just to prove to you that I'm not adding anything that isn't here, okay? This is the raw image of that thing. And you've got the head here. You can actually see 2 pupils there, 2 dark spots. See those? You can see the eye there and there. There's a little nose and a mouth. It's a bit vague, I appreciate that, especially when you get too close. The images are blurred, they're not in focus. I actually think a lot of these were taken on the move, or at least the rover was shaking slightly. It looks like many of the images we get from the surface do have a tiny bit of motion blur in them. So there may be some vibration on board because of the wind, basically. Who knows? And some of them do look like they've been actually taken on the move, where the rover is very slowly moving along at snail's pace, which will also blur an image, partially. So I do think that's partly why we get these rather fuzzy looking images. Not only is there the orange filter on everything that makes it look all kind of orange and brown, and it's very hard to see anything, but I think there's a little bit of motion blur in many of them, and that would explain it. There's that little monkey dude, there he is. See, even in the raw image you can see that. You don't have to do anything to it, there it is. There's that other thing that looks like a little skull there with two eyes. Let's get the sharpen tool actually. We want the sharpen tool. Let's see what happens when you sharpen that up. Yeah, he's got an eye there and an eye there by the looks of it. There's the little monkey head. Sharpen that up a bit. There he is. just over here. Those eyes, let's sharpen those eyes up a bit. Sharpen the mouth and nose, there it is. So I'm not putting these things in the image, they're there. They're there for all to see and hidden in plain sight. And what I was going to try and do in this video and failed was to not mention certain words like this. Alright? Hang on. Let's not do it in join note writing. Because I think certain words like that are restricted by the algorithm on YouTube. And what they do when you do a new video is they record the transcript. They record a transcript of your narration, and then it gets examined by bots, and then they work out what sort of words, or if there's anything you're saying that shouldn't be said. Also words like this, which I unfortunately have said a couple of times already, especially those two together, right? If you use those two together, I'm sure this is why a lot of my recent videos are not getting watched, because I mention these words quite a lot. I think that my videos are being flagged secretly and not being pushed by YouTube. Okay, there may be other blacklisted words as well. I do have a list of blacklisted words that go back for years, which have words like this, you know, in there, which they don't like, obviously, but I think these are probably more recent words that have been added, and perhaps that's something to do with why many of my recent videos are doing rather poorly. And who knows? I mean, this isn't guesswork. This is based on observation over many years of working on YouTube. So who knows about that? So what I'll do, I'll take some more clips of some of these and enhance them and see if I can bring out some more details for you. There's lots of weird stuff in here. Well worth looking at this set of images. What I'll do is I'll put this Gigapan, I'll put the JPEG version of this on my Facebook group here, ArtAlienTV Mars Magazine. So if you want to download it, you can come to the page here and scroll down and you will find a download for it. It's quite a large image, but I think the JPEG is less than 20 megabytes, so it's not horrendous. So it won't be massive, but it'll be quite large. And like I said, do come along to my channel and check out some of my recent finds. I'm sure some of these are being restricted, as I said, because I keep mentioning those certain words that I showed you. And I think if you mention those words and have them in the description as well, for the video, then I think the video kind of gets delisted or something like that. Whereas when you do stuff about things like this, they get a shed load of views because there's no words like that being used. The sewer outlet on the mountain. That's not a sewer outlet, it's more of a storm drain overflow, I think, actually. But that was too long for the title. So the words you use are very specific, and I do think some words are restricted. And there's probably a list of blacklisted words that we don't even know about. So this may explain why certain videos aren't getting viewed very much, because the terminology I'm using isn't friendly, apparently. So there we are. So thanks for watching, everybody. Clips coming up in a second. Please like and subscribe. Liking the videos is very important, because if they don't get over 100 likes in the first couple of days, the videos just die as well. So that's partly something to do with why some of these aren't getting viewed. You basically get the video pushed for a couple of days on YouTube, and if it doesn't do well in the first couple of days and you don't get over 100 likes, then the video just dies. And especially if you're using restricted terminology like I am, they then sort of go into no man's land and never get viewed. Okay, so thanks for watching, everybody. Sorry that went on a bit too long there, but there's loads of stuff here. And do go back and watch part 1 if you haven't seen it already. Scary Martian and Statues, part 1. I'll put part 1 in the title, actually, for that. And this is part 2 to that, and there may be a part 3 coming up soon. So thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.